Our top story tonight. Well, Sikkim's landscapes are a canvas painted by the divine. Sikkim's beauty is as timeless as the mountains themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, these are lines that have been used to describe Sikkim for centuries. But the visuals that you see right now also describe Sikkim. But this one tells a different story. A tale of tragedy, devastation and death. Foremost, India's northeast is about its natural beauty. But in the past few days, this very beauty has witnessed the ugly side of nature. A cloudburst over Lhonak River, in fact Lhonak Lake, resulted in a flash flood in the Teesta River. And while more than 100 people are missing, over 40 deaths have been reported so far. The swollen Teesta River submerged most of the nearby towns, and not just towns. Sikkim's biggest hydropower project, the Teesta 3 dam, was also washed away. The question is, could the Sikkim disaster be averted? Is it a human-made disaster? Chief Minister Prem Singh Tamang has said that substandard construction is the reason behind this breach. Reports after reports have warned of the exact disaster that has taken place in Sikkim. But clearly, nobody was listening. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India had warned about the Teesta Dam. The report had flagged its shoddy planning from the very beginning, back in 2017. The Central Water Commission, in fact, had also warned about the dams being at risk. So why did the authorities ignore these forewarnings? And what's the road ahead for Sikkim? To discuss more on this, I am joined by my guests tonight. I'm joined by Mr. Naveen Bhatnagar, former DIG at the NDRF. Vimblendu Jha, environmentalist, also joins us. And Pema Wangchuk, consulting editor of Summit Times, joins us from Gangtok. Good evening and welcome to all three of you gentlemen on the broadcast tonight. Pema, to you first. Sikkim, your state, has been going through some very tough times. First of all, help us understand what's the latest situation really there?
Now that the water has receded, the time has come to take stock of the scale of the damage and the enormity of what has happened here. Because, flash flood, as the name suggests, it was on the night of on the 3rd October night and through half the day of 4th October that the flash flood, no, it's no longer a flash flood. The flood on the Teesta had disoriented everyone, caused massive havoc. And now is the time when Sikkim is looking at what has been lost and trying to figure out how things are to be restored. So it's slowly sinking in, I think, the enormity of what had happened.
And the visuals, Pema, that we are getting out of Sikkim have been extremely concerning, distressing, yes, and unfortunate. And we're so sorry for the loss of lives that Sikkim has seen in this tragedy. But one of the things that has come out of it, Pema, is the fact that there were authorities that were warned of the exact kind of situation years earlier as well, whether it was the Central Water Commission, whether it was the CAG, or even international studies and researchers, all have pointed towards the fact that dams on the Teesta River will make it prone to such disasters of, glacial lake outbursts that we have seen this time around. What has been the reaction really of the authorities and the government there, considering the fact that these reports clearly seem to have been ignored?
Yeah, these warnings were not unique to Sikkim. As the other experts will tell you, big hydro projects in the Himalayas itself have been flagged as a risk. And these projects were green flagged and commissioned at a time when there was this whole push across the country for hydel, which was being billed or projected as clean energy. So a lot of the concerns that were voiced by experts were ignored, and every time a concern is flagged, some other agency comes up with a way that it could be, I mean, very weak arguments, obviously. We've experienced it. But these all got pushed through. And now, as the present government in Sikkim has said that it was poor construction of the dam, that is the allegation going around now officially. But not just poor construction, one could argue that it was even a bad idea to go so deep into the Himalayas and construct such a huge dam. So,
Yeah.
yeah, in the name of nation building, in the name of
Which also
development,
leads me to my
a
next
lot of
question,
these.
Pema, the fact that there's always this tussle between development and environment and how to balance both. You are somebody who hails from there. What has been really the sentiment and the feeling among the Sikkimese people regarding this? You know, all of us want development, all of us want infrastructure to be built in areas where we live so that life is easier and smoother and more convenient. But clearly, this is coming at the cost of our environment.
Yeah, truly, truly. If you look at all the chatter on social media, you speak to anyone right now in Sikkim, they will point out to the dam as having compounded to the scale of destruction that the glacial, the Glof sent down on the Teesta. So there is a very strong sentiment against dams. I mean, it has always been there. But now it is even more, I guess it is even stronger. But most of the dams have already been commissioned or are nearing completion across Sikkim. So yeah, one worries at what could happen next. This was a big one, right? But it is not as if the other projects have been
Yeah.
free of any mishaps. So the sentiment is very strongly against hydel projects,
Okay.
and this will always be a difficult balancing act, right? What do you do if you don't go for dams? You still need energy. Coal is also polluting, so a difficult one. But the sentiment in Sikkim right
Yeah.
now is
Yeah.
definitely very
Let me
against
also get in Vimlendu
big
Jha
hydel.
here. Yeah. Yeah, let me also get in Vimlendu Jha here. Vimlendu, you know, as an environmentalist, how do you see these warnings really being given to not just the Sikkim region, but the entire Himalayan region, as Pema suggested? And since we know that the Teesta was prone to this after the construction of the hydroelectric power projects there, and the fact that the entire region there is prone to glacial lake outbursts, how do we see this really? Is it just the topography, the geography of the region, or now that we're seeing global warming and climate change adding to most of our woes, is that a reason that can be attributed to?
See, it will be a very lazy argument to say that it's climate change that's causing all of this, because in the last 6 months, we've seen the kind of disaster that's actually taken place in Himachal, the kind of disaster that's actually happened in Joshimath. I've been on several shows on your channel talking about the sinking Joshimath, the flooding of Himachal also, and now we are talking about Sikkim. So therefore, it just cannot be global warming, because it's a very easy excuse to hide behind. It's purely bad idea, what Pema said, that it's not just about bad construction as the Chief Minister wants to state it. It's bad idea itself, because for decades together, various people, various experts have said that, you know, it's not a great idea to really construct such quality of dam or quantity of dam or the size of dam or a dam itself of such magnitude in an ecologically fragile region that does not even take into consideration the geological reality of Himalayas. So in last 6 months, we've seen big disasters in our country, and we still want to really look at this as an event rather than a phenomena. Please understand, and the other question that you were saying about what you asked, which was about, balance between environment and development. There cannot ever be a balancing between life and death. We are talking about a very, very vulnerable situation. Here, it's not about comfort, whether 18 degrees of your air conditioning or at 24 degrees. It's about whether you can live or whether you cannot live. We've seen how more than 7,000 people disappeared completely, died and missing still from Kedarnath, which was a similar incidence. And in last 6 months, we've seen several other hundreds of people disappeared. So when we look at this, therefore, it cannot be a development debate. It will be a very, very convenient peddling of arguments saying, oh, well, we still need dams, but we don't need dams where dams can't exist. Here we're talking about a very, very ecologically fragile region, where electricity is important, but can electricity be more important than your breath? Can it be more important than your life? Imagine that more than 300 lakes in Sikkim. Many experts, as you rightly said, have warned about it for several decades, that given the kind of global warming that we are facing, the kind of vulnerability that Himalayas has, and right now, by the way, last 2 days, we are suddenly talking about maybe this is because of the earthquake. No. As an earthquake could have perhaps triggered, Nepal earthquake could have perhaps triggered this event. But reality is that everybody who lives in Sikkim, everybody who studies Sikkim or studies the hydroelectric power plants in the Himalayas talks about that this was in waiting. Earthquake or no earthquake, this would have happened.
Vimlendu, I understand your point about this being a very convenient argument that you put it all on climate change, but also help me understand, because there is climate change and global warming happening, we're also seeing the level of our water bodies rising, and therefore, wouldn't that also influence the swelling of our rivers and lakes, and therefore the water level being breached and eventually leading to the kind of tragedies that we are seeing?
No, absolutely right. And did we hear about global warming just yesterday? We knew about global warming for last several decades, and we still went ahead and planned these massive dams and by the way, we're not talking about the river swelling. We're talking about the upstream of the river. We're talking about constructing these hydroelectric power plants in upstream of almost 17,000 feet and above altitude. So therefore, of course, we know that global warming has caused, of course, there's glacier melting. Of course, there's GLOF that's happening. And when you know about this, when you have the scientific temperament, and when you actually combine scientific temperament and all the data that's coming from international and local communities of scientists with governance, what do? You construct more. And that's exactly, as by the way, please let's not only discuss Sikkim. What happened a couple of months ago in Joshimath is actually combined. What happened in Himachal in terms of similar violations or similar breaching. When the river breached, so-called river did not breach your territory. We breached the river and river's riverbed. Look at the kind of construction that has actually gone. And within 10 minutes, the entire dam was washed away. Did we not even imagine? What are our water experts actually doing? Imagining the kind of construction where even districts and villages are completely washed away. So when the data is available to us, why are we actually running behind the greed and not understanding the data? And interestingly, this actually applies across environmental phenomena, be it air, be it water, be it flood, be it Himalayas, be it our coastal regions.
Yeah. Naveen Bhatnagar, these reports that had warned the entire Himalayan region of the kind of tragedies that it is prone to also suggest the setting up of early warning systems. Now, you're somebody who has had the experience of dealing with the disaster management. An early warning system, if it was in place in Sikkim at that time, would have given at least a minimum 90-minute duration of time for people to be moved out of that region, to be evacuated from that. Do you think one of the major points that we have missed is the fact that we don't have early warning systems for our natural disasters.
Hello.
Mr. Bhatnagar, are you able to hear me?
Lost. Yeah, it was lost, but now resume. Yeah, please. Please ask.
Okay. Mr. Bhatnagar, my question to you
Hello.
was that, since you are somebody who has an experience in managing disasters, these reports and studies and researches have suggested that there should have been an early warning system, and therefore in the case of Sikkim it would have got a 90-minute period of time to at least evacuate the people from there to reduce the damages that we have seen in the area. Do you think we are missing out on a major point of having early warning systems for natural disasters?
Yeah, definitely. It was a lack on the part of the state government and the authorities there, including your hydro project officials, as well as the army people and other people, residents of this that area. All are responsible for that. When they got the information well in advance, why they have not shifted? And because they have not revealed the consequences of such crisis. So I'm sorry to say that all body was negligent in this sector. Anyhow, since I was there in Teesta project and I have served there, so I know better what is the quality of work of the project is there, because it is very near to China, and maximum adequate items were used in the dam, and time and again the audits were done. Even then expert teams visited time to time, and they have advised. I don't know, because natural crisis is a crisis. Anytime it happens, it may happen. But it is, yes, it is correct that when we got the advance information, and we have really failed to evacuate the people from that particular area. But anyhow, is a lesson for we people to do the other exercises and the things in future also. Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Pema, now that Sikkim is looking to revamp and get back on track finally, what are the authorities really looking at in terms of the action on ground? Have there been lessons learned?
It would be too early to say whether any lessons have been learned, because right now the first priority for Sikkim is to evacuate the tourists and locals who are stranded in Chungthang and beyond, which is a very popular tourist destination. The other priority right now, the immediate worry, is to get the road connectivity done, because Sikkim is cut off. There are alternate routes for smaller vehicles to get to connect with the mainland, but for the trucks and for the bigger supplies to come in, the national highway is gone. And thanks again, like it's damaged primarily next to some hydel projects, the reservoirs, the road running along the reservoir, or some hydel projects down in West Bengal on the Teesta that are now damaged, and it will take some time, I guess, before they can repair those. So these are the immediate
essentials, Pema,
concerns.
are in short supply right now. What about the
Not yet.
essential
It's just
food and medicines and all of those supplies? Okay.
As of right now, it's just been 2 days, right? So there will not be a shortage. I don't think now is the time anymore where any area will be left short supplied. There is a lot of panic buying, of course, right? That is only natural in times like this.
Yeah.
But I don't think Sikkim will run out of essential items or medicines. I mean, they can be flown in, like bigger helicopters. The weather will clear up eventually. So, but road connectivity is required. So that's the immediate thing. As for the lessons to be learned from this, I looking at these things from outside can already see there are so many lessons that Sikkim should study, and which is why, like the DIG mentioned, they have to study the timeline, they have to study where their planning failed, they have to study which areas need improvement so that something like this does not happen again. I mean, it is what Vimlendu said as well, right? I mean, right now, the tendency among the authorities, you can kind of get that they're trying to blame it on a cloudburst or a GLOF, right? That as if it was an act of nature that caused this entire
That's
thing.
what it
And yes,
looks
the
like
dam
on the
added to it.
face of it, but it clearly isn't.
Yeah, but because it was compounded, right? It was poor planning, it was poor urban planning, the way the construction. I mean, you see the footage running alongside. The houses are right on the riverbank.
Yeah.
So there are so many lessons to be learned, and like that would be down the line. I guess the first thing for Sikkim is to make sure that people who've lost their homes, who are in relief camps at present, are rehabilitated. The
Yeah.
connectivity is brought back online. People who are stranded are evacuated.
Yeah.
And then I guess we'll begin the process of learning some lessons. Past experience, of course, clearly shows that lessons, like governments do not normally learn lessons. Um, I guess the civil society will have to kick in with more pressure.
But let's
Now
just
they
at
have a
least
point,
all of
right?
us can learn our lessons. As citizens of those regions, we at least the onus lies also on us, so we can learn our lessons and proceed. And of course, governments and authorities have to learn their lessons. They will be forced to learn their lessons because we can't have such tragedies happening every day. Vimlendu Cha, my last question to you: what's the way forward then? We need development. We also need our ecological balance. And you said that it's a matter of life and death, and clearly it is. But we cannot leave development behind. How do we really go about it then?
No, so development not at the cost of human life. Of course, all of us want development. All of us want better quality of life, better standards of living, all of that. But imagine if we actually have something that's actually staring at us, as in I'm only going 10 years, 2013 to now 2023, we've seen several such incidents happening in front of us, then what do we actually do? And we all know that there is some sort of lack of scientific temperament, lack of understanding of data. Because if every scientist is telling everybody that Himalayan geology is very, very different, the kind of construction that you should be doing should be actually in line with the geology of the area, and if you still go ahead and show your development prowess, then it's your stupidity. As in, there's no end to developmental stupidity on our planet. By that logic, we can, we live in bad air quality world. We can keep building industries and keep living in dust. But we make a choice, and therefore, right now, when we actually have so many disasters staring at us, we will have to relook at what do we say no to? And perhaps, Pema, stop saying one thing. We perhaps need to decommission some of these things. We will have to stop some of these idle projects that are the main causes of disaster. Because if there is climate change, when there is cloudburst, when there are these climate events that's happening, and we still have a desire to live, or we still, as government, have desired for our people to live and survive, then we will have to really stop doing certain things that we've been doing. We cannot continue to do the same things that we've been doing for the last several decades because it's in fashion. Development cannot be in fashion because climate change is somewhere really creating a counter narrative to that development fashion that we all believed in. There is nothing called balance between development and ecology because there's no monkey balancing that can actually happening here.
Yeah. Clearly, we'll have to make our choices and soon because, as I said, we cannot have these tragedies happening again and again. They not just destroy our ecology, but they also destroy human lives and families. To all my panelists, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Pema Wangchuk, Vimlendu Jha and Naveen Bhatnagar, thank you very much for joining us, sparing your time and sharing your thoughts on this big tragedy that could have been averted in the state of Sikkim. With that, we're slipping into a short break. News and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned to Mirror Now.